blog. We've been talking about it for ages. Yes, so for anyone who doesn't know, Asha has a blog. I read, and I probably got the title of this wrong, but it was the one that you did about the breakup one.
Yeah.
And that was the first one I read, and I think, personally, that was very impactful. I think it was really nice because of how honest you were in it, but also the tips that you were sharing, the advice you were giving. Yeah. Essentially, I just wanted to ask, why did you start the blog? Because I think for a lot of people who want to start blogs or even start anything, there was always that sort of like thought in your head that, will people like it? Should I even be doing it? Am I an expert in even what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, why did you decide to start your blog?
So I've been into journaling since, I want to say, the age of 10. Been journaling since the age of 10. I've got a huge bookcase with like a stack of journals. Okay. So I kind of wanted my blog to reflect like a personal diary. So my readers will get a insight into my life and what I do, what tips I could give out that could potentially help someone else. So I wanted to kind of create that space of giving people a chance to look into my life, because even though the idea of being a model is like great, like I've got other aspects to me other than just being a model. So I didn't want that to just become like my only label. I want to still be able to give tips. I'm very particular with my morning routines and like my mental health and things like that. And I feel like a lot of people, I've had some lovely messages that the blog has helped them, and that's kind of why I set it up in the first place. So I wanted it to be a reflection of kind of like each blog will be like what I'd write in my diary, and I'd tell my diary about it. So I thought if it's something that could potentially help other people, then absolutely I will put it out there. I'll kind of give other people the opportunity to do it, and also I feel like it's quite a nice thing to look back on. So of course you have your private journals and stuff, but at least maybe, I don't know which way tech's going nowadays, 20 years time, I could look back on my website and be like, wow, like that's how things were back then. So yeah, I feel like my blog obviously has different sections. It has my model section, it has my like fashion section, my travel, my lifestyle section. So it's got all different bits, and I feel like I want people to really get a gist of me as a person and not just the image that, say, gets brought out to you just over social media and Instagram and things like that.
Wow, that's really impactful, because, yeah, like you said, sometimes people see posts of individuals and they're models or celebrities or influencers, and like you said, people don't necessarily know the person.
Yeah.
And I think that's really impactful, because you're sort of, like you said, you're sharing bits of yourself with the public, which is really nice. But also, I think it's really important because, like you said, that track record, because, we've mentioned it before in the podcast that our first episode, we all didn't like. And it wasn't because it was necessarily like bad or we hated it, but it was just, we find it funny how, because when we recorded, we started recording with there was no video. It was over lockdown. We were all just in our own homes, and we were just like, let's just try this. So for 40 minutes, we just recorded ourselves, just talking about a topic. And the person who hosted that episode, Samuel, he did an amazing job. He had all this research stuff. But I think because none of us had ever done anything like it before, we were all just like, let's just see how it goes. So yeah, we look back on that and we find it super awkward. But like you said, it's great to see how, as a team, but also as individuals, we sort of grown and developed. So I've said, like, one thing I've always loved about the podcast is I have learned more about different fields and people than I would have if I never did it. I don't know any models. I didn't know anything about modeling. But through this episode, I know a bit more. So yeah, I think that's the impactful thing about having pieces of media that you actually use to share your journey, because it's going to lead on to the next question. Actually, I've planned it perfectly, so I won't excuse it. Because the next question is, as a part of the theme that we've been doing for this series, which sort of just came out of a conversation that happened earlier this year, and it was all about the idea that everyone sometimes feels like failure is like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if you fail, if something doesn't go all your way, you can't sort of bounce back from that. You can't sort of overcome it. Which leads into the question, which is, what's been the most difficult time in your life that you've managed to pick yourself up from? Because I think for our audience, but also, like I was saying before, about sort of sharing pieces of your life and sort of giving information on that sense, is it's so impactful for people to see that you've developed and you've grown, and to know that, okay, this big, even not even necessarily like a big celebrity, but other people go through what I go through or feel how I feel, is so impactful. So what's been the most difficult time in your life that you've managed to pick yourself up from?
I'd say, so I was in, again, not many people know this, so it's something that I think is a really good reflection to show that it's real. Things happen. Like your life could look so perfect on social media, and it might not be. So one thing I'd say is I was in a pretty difficult relationship. I'd been going out with this person since about 16 years old, and it was quite a manipulative and abusive relationship I was in, and it didn't end very well. Like, it was all over the place, which is hence why I kind of wrote a breakup blog, because I'm completely out of it now. I've been set free. I'm able to just move on with my life. But I was in a relationship for almost 3 years, and it was a big chunk of my development period of growing into a young adult. And I felt like throughout that whole time, I used to question, like, why am I not happy? What is wrong? Like, something in my body is saying, you're not happy, something isn't right. But you go through a phase of, obviously, manipulation and all of that does happen. So I felt like that was probably the lowest point. And now that I'm out of it, you can really watch and realise how deep in you were. And you realise that when you come out of it, and I think one day I just plucked up the courage and I was like, I can't do this anymore, like I'm done with it. And I have not looked back since, and I'm now able to, I knew it would be a really hard process, I knew it was going to be the most difficult thing I probably have to deal with, and I just thought, no, the one thing I kept telling myself was, it's temporary, it's literally temporary, the feeling is temporary, it will go, I've just got to not bury it, I need to just let it bubble up to the surface, sit with it, and just let it, just ride it out until it doesn't hurt anymore. And I did that. I think it's just gone way over 6 months now. So it's gone for a while, and I think I just really focused on myself throughout that period, on self-love, on picking myself back up to making sure I feel good in myself. Of course, like cutting contact, all of that stuff. And the most important thing was having supportive people around you. So I've been so fortunate to have my friends, my family, people around me that have always looked after me and always been there for me. So I'd say that was probably the most difficult thing to overcome at such a young age. But when you're out of it, you realise like how well you've done, And I feel like being in a relationship with a narcissist, it is one of them that it happens a lot. Like it happens a lot, whether it be the girl that is or the boy that is. And it's something that I think quite a few people would be able to relate to. And this is for anyone out there who is in that at the moment. Like, you just run with it, listen to yourself. I feel like if anything I could go back and tell myself was that weird feeling, listen to it, stop ignoring it, stop giving excuses for it. Your body will tell you when it's not right for you, and when it's not right for you, you need to let it go and move on, because the level up you get after it is incredible. It's incredible. You get your spirit back, you get everything back that unfortunately you once lost. So I feel like that's something that maybe some people could relate to, and yeah, my advice would be just run with it, get out and just don't look backwards.